we have a Tokyo Princess Cup winner. Suzume, our current International Princess Champion, has won her first ever Tokyo Princess Cup. We're going to talk all about how she took home the trophy today and who awaits her at Wrestle Princess 7. We'll also preview the Becoming show, cover a number of show announcements, and welcome Justin Stein to the show to chat the Resura Top 100 Joshi wrestlers. All that and more coming up on the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Stay tuned. Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa, and welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything TJPW. I'm your host, Andy Zyke, and we've made it. We are at the end of the 13th annual Tokyo Princess Cup. I'll take my victory lap. You can send your congratulations on over via email. I correctly picked that Suzume would take home this year's prize. I didn't quite think she'd do it as International Princess Champion, but I think that makes this all the more exciting. We're going to wrap up the excellent tournament today talking about last weekend's big Corcoran Hall show, which turned out to be quite a good show, top to bottom. There's also so much coming up on the horizon to talk about. Immediately this weekend, we have Becoming, the show for members of the 2023 class or later. This will be the first iteration of Becoming, and I'm really curious to see how it all plays out if it becomes an annual event for TJPW. We also have a few initial Wrestle Princess 7 announcements to go over, a little bit of Texas Stampede 2 announcements, some big announcements there, the next Inspiration show, the next Street Wrestling show, and a Miu Watanabe excursion as well. The last 4 months of the year are shaping up to be an absolute sprint. Couple of quick housekeeping items. I am slightly behind on the second bonus episode this month, the look at TJPW in AEW. I had anticipated recording that last weekend, but sometimes life just gets a touch too busy and we have to stay on our toes. So instead, I'm actually going to be recording that this coming weekend, and it'll release on Monday the 31st, just in under the wire for August. Also this weekend, I'm headed to Kitsune, so if you'll be at that show, come on over, say hello. I can give you a sticker if you don't have one already. Last week, I gave you all a big thank you. Well, I give you thanks every week for tuning in and having a chat with me about TJPW. But last week, I mentioned all the great comments and messages and emails that I've been getting. Well, this week I realized something new, guys. Don't flame me too hard for this. I realized that Spotify has a comment feature. I know I'm more of an Apple Podcasts guy, but I recently came across 8 months worth of comments on Spotify. So I just wanted to quickly shout out V, Sam Grunion, Ismail, and a good buddy of the show, Jason Ingram. Thank you guys for leaving those Spotify comments. And to those of you that are reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts, Drew, Paul, Eric, and George, thank you so much. If you would like to leave a review or a comment on whichever platform you're listening on, that includes YouTube as well. Feel free to do that. I might just shout you out on a future episode, and I absolutely love to hear your guys' thoughts on what's going on in TJPW. Speaking of future episodes, today is our 50th episode, big milestone, which means that we are very quickly approaching the 1-year anniversary of this show. That's crazy. Time certainly flies, but I truly wouldn't be here without all of you listening. So thank you all so much again. We'll have to see what's in store for our 1-year anniversary in a couple of weeks. But today, let's dive on into the show. Coming out of this weekend's Tokyo Princess Cup Finals show, we actually have a few updates around Wrestle Princess 7, which is set to happen on October 3rd. That's a Saturday, from the Ibarra Wave, formerly known as Ota Ward. We now know our main event for Wrestle Princess 7. The Princess of Princess title will be defended by Yuki Arai, and she will defend against Tokyo Princess Cup winner Suzume. We're actually going to have a first preview tag coming up in just a little while on Saturday, September 5th, so about a week or so away from the Yokohama Radiant Hall. We're going to talk all about that as we get closer to that preview show, and of course, as we get closer to Wrestle Princess itself. Also on that preview show on Saturday, September 5th, the Princess Tag titles will have a new number one contender. TJPW has announced a three-way number one contenders tag match for the number one contendership for the Princess Tag titles. The three teams in this match are going to be Kick Slash, Miu Yamashita, and Sakura Hattori, Prism Greed, Haru Kazushiro, and Yuki Aino, and then the recent team that we've been seeing quite a bit, Himawari and Toga. Also a note for this 9-5 show, Lil Mars is going to be coming over. Lil Mars wrestled with Toga in Las Vegas at Pottermania, and Mars is going to be making her TJPW debut. So that September 5th show is actually shaping up to be quite a busy one, and it's going to be our first big stop on the road to Wrestle Princess 7. The last quick piece of news for Wrestle Princess 7, TJPW has announced that Go Nagai, a famous manga artist, has been commissioned to create the art visuals for Wrestle Princess 7. I'm not huge on manga myself, but from what I understand, Go Nagai is like a living legend, someone who is big time in the artist space and the illustrator space. So this is a huge get for TJPW. I'm always really fascinated by the different poster art that they create. The poster art for Grand Princess was great as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Go can produce here for Wrestle Princess 7. We also have a few announcements for Texas Stampede 2. It Ain't Our First Rodeo, which will be happening the very first weekend of December, Friday, December 4th through Sunday, December 6th, from both Houston and Dallas. 10 of the 16 TJPW wrestlers have been announced. Those 10 include Yuki Arai, Suzume, Miu Watanabe, Mizuki, Miu Yamashita, Hyper Misao, Yuki Kamifuku, Pam Harajuku, Sakura Hattori, and Wakana Uehara. Probably the bigger announcement, or maybe the equally sized announcement, is that tickets are going on sale for Texas Stampede 2 this weekend, Saturday, August 29th. So if you are a day one listener of this show, get ready, because in less than 24 hours, tickets will be on sale. If you're a little bit of a delayed listener to the show, that's totally fine. But make sure you jump on to your computer and get your tickets as soon as possible, because they will be out starting Saturday, August 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. There is also a pre-sale for those of you that join the Tokyo Story USA Discord, and that pre-sale will be happening the day before on Friday, August 28th. Also coming up in October, the next Inspiration Show has been confirmed for Wednesday, October 14th from the Tokyo Square in Itabashi. The talent that have been announced for this, at least the TJPW talent that have been announced for this show, includes Suzume, Rika Tatsumi, Shoko Nakajima, Yuki Kamifuku, Pam Harajuku, Arisu Endo, Haru Kazushiro, Uda Takami, and Momo Sato. In addition to those TJPW wrestlers, Mirai has also been announced for this Inspiration Show, and TJPW noted that 1 to 2 other guests from outside of the company will also be a part of this Inspiration Show. These Inspiration Shows, if you are unfamiliar, are a little bit more of like a bite-sized version, a travel-sized version of TJPW. They tend to be a lot shorter than your average show. They're only about 90 minutes, give or take. They don't have the full roster, as you can tell from that list that we just spoke about, but they're a lot of fun. It's a chance for TJPW to do some outside-of-the-box ideas, some kind of silly and fun ideas as well. I believe a long time ago they had a death match on one of these, like a true death match, not like a fun, silly TJPW death match. Sawyer Wreck came in and had a death match with Hikari Noah. Crazy thought that TJPW has had a death match before. But they also have some comedy. Gabai Ji-chan typically will come to these shows. They had a tremendous match against Rika Tatsumi just in the fall at one of the Inspiration shows. Yu made her return to TJPW at an Inspiration show before she retired. So you never know what you're going to get, but you're always in store for a good time. Speaking of not knowing what you're going to get, but being in store for a great time, TJPW has announced an upcoming show also in October called Soaked Hammer, TJPW Rooftop Garden Pro Wrestling and Barbecue Party. Now, this sounds incredible just by the name alone. It will happen on Saturday, October 10th from the Grand Hammer Shimbashi Rooftop in Tokyo. From what I can understand in my research, the Grand Hammer Shimbashi is like giant entertainment venue of sorts. This is a 2-part event. The first half will include a performance by the Up Up Girls. It's going to include a Rakugo performance by Fumarine. That's what she does when she does like her English performance. Like it's kind of like comedy storytelling in a way. So there'll be a Fumarine performance and then also a talk event with a few wrestlers. And on top of all of that, during that first portion of the event, barbecue will be served and all you can drink drinks. In the second half of the event, this is where things get a little off the wall here. TJPW will present its unique water spraying mat wrestling. That's the exact quote from the press release. The unique water spraying mat wrestling. The seats that you can purchase for this are absolutely incredible. There are certain, TJPW always titles their seats like super special seats, and this seat, there's always like a theme to their seats. Well, the seats that you can purchase here, the tickets that you can purchase are called Bring On the Soaking Super Soaked Frontline Seats. You could also get something called Probably Safe Sofa Seats, and then also the Soaking Welcome Seats. You think you're going to get wet at this event, maybe? It also was announced that all wrestlers are going to participate for the talk event only. In the first portion of the event, Mihiro Kiryu, Mifu Ishida, Uda Takami, Ren Kanatsu, and Momosato, they are only going to be participating in the talk event. And then Fumarine will be doing the Rakugo performance. Everybody else that I did not mention there is going to be wrestling on the second half of the show in 4 to 5 matches. To me, this is going to be similar to like the bookstore event that happened last fall, any of the other like street wrestling events that have taken place over the years at the pool, at the aquarium, on the train. I wouldn't expect Wrestle Princess or Grand Princess level wrestling to take place. I think this is going to be much more silly and fun and zany. Everybody there is probably going to get wet. I don't know if they'll have super soakers or whatever. But it sounds like it's going to be a fun time to close out the summer. I really hope that this is on Wrestle Universe because these types of events are always a blast. The bookstore event is great to watch. The aquarium, the pool match, the train match, all live on in infamy, and people always talk so highly about those. So I'm very excited about this. I'm really looking forward to seeing this when it comes out, and at the very least seeing the pictures, but we have a couple of months to go until October 10th. It was also announced recently that Miu Watanabe has been recruited for the next Fortune Dream show. Fortune Dream is a series of shows put on by Kenta Kobashi, and Miu was recruited. Kenta Kobashi basically launched a new documentary series called Kenta Kobashi's Go On Scout, The Road to Fortune Dream. And in this series, Kobashi visits promotions around Japan, watches the wrestlers in person, and then personally selects someone to invite to a future Fortune Dream show. The very first episode of this premiered on Sunday, August 16th. It was centered on TJPW, and afterwards, Miu Watanabe was chosen as Kobashi's first recruit for Fortune Dream. There's no confirmation of when this show will be or the specific name of this show, but it will likely be Fortune Dream 12. That's the next one in the sequence, and it will likely happen sometime in the early portion of 2027. Last piece of news, a quick hit one, but if you are familiar with Query, there are a couple of new TJPW talent joining the Query service. Query is like a personalized message app, kind of like Cameo, where you can pay a small fee and one of the TJPW performers will share a brief message with you. It could be about a birthday, a celebration, an anniversary, a quick hello. They can answer a question. I think the possibilities are kind of endless. But starting this week, Ren Kanatsu, Shion Kanzaki, Rise Shirai, and Fumarine are all now offering messages. The vast majority of the rest of the roster is also available on Query. They have an app on the App Store that you can find. So if you're interested in a personalized message, highly recommend you check out Query. On to our show review of the week, the 13th annual Tokyo Princess Cup Finals. Now, this proved to be a big one, guys. This show went down on Sunday, August 23rd from Corcoran Hall. It was live on Wrestle Universe, came in around 3 hours, as most of the Corcoran Hall shows typically do for TJPW. No talent was absent, which was great. I know Mihiro Kiryu had a little bit of a back injury a couple of weeks ago, so it's nice to see that she was cleared in time for this show. Kira Summer also returned for this show. That was lovely to see. We'll talk about her. And we also had English commentary from Mr. Haku and Bali and Aki. Attendance for this one came in a little bit softer. It was 927. The last time TJPW was here was just last month for Summer Sun Princess, where they drew over 1,200 people. The 927 number is the second lowest Corcoran Hall attendance of the year, behind the Max Heart Finals show earlier on in February. We opened up with Rise Shirai giving the opening remarks and the house rules. This was where they announced the barbecue party show, the Go Nagai collaboration with Wrestle Princess 7. And then afterwards, we had the Up Up Girls came out and they sang Sugar High, a song that we've only heard once before earlier in the year at a Corcoran Hall show, but one that I really enjoy. It's kind of like a metal song, metal influence, maybe a little bit like, what's the name of that group? Baby Metal, I think is what they're called. Kind of gives me vibes like that. At the end of the song, the Up Up Girls also reminded everyone that they are currently recruiting new members. They talked about their upcoming solo show at the Shinjuku Face venue. And then this young woman got into the ring. She was a fourth grader for the Start Kids initiative that TJPW sent out just a couple weeks ago. Basically, this was an elementary-aged child that could apply to give the start call. And so we saw Yuzuki-chan, who was a big fan of Kamiyu, a big fan of Raku. She gave Raku a big old hug when she got in the ring. And Yuzuki-chan is the one that led us in the start call for today's show. We also got this really cool highlight package of previous Cup winners and highlights from all of this year's Cup matches. I thought that was just a really well put together package before we got started. Really got me in the mood for the show. We opened up with the singles contest between Momo Sato and Shion Kanzaki. The winner of this match was going to get their first career victory, so a lot on the line here. These two did pretty well for only having like 7 or so months between the two of them. Momo Sato has a lot of natural talent that she can unlock. She seems very comfortable in the wrestling ring. Early on in this, Shion hit her Ganbare chant in the corner, as well as a few back elbows. Momo responded with a spinning heel kick and a crab hold. Not too long after that, though, Shion locked in an arm bar, and Momo tapped out in 5 minutes and 9 seconds. Backstage, Shion celebrated her first career win, saying that she practices with Momo a lot, and she will head towards her homecoming show with some momentum here. Momo Sato reflected on her performance, saying that she needs to be a little bit quicker and throw some stronger elbows. So she's learning. She's definitely trying to get better and grow. But that said, both of these ladies are coming along so quickly for their experience levels. I think Ren kind of did before them as well. Ren was on a similar path, really just elevated herself very, very fast. One thing I would like to see Shion develop is more of a finishing move. Maybe it's going to be this arm bar, but I think that's one piece to the puzzle that she's missing that could help her level up to that next level. Next up, we had another singles contest. Sakura Hattori went one-on-one with Haru Kazushiro. These two have met 3 times before, albeit it was Kaya Toribami in there, but Sakura have won all 3 of those prior meetings. They began with some grappling before they quickly transitioned into some kicks and submissions. Sakura tried for her Fudorio reverse choke. Haru rolled through it and right into an armbar. Sakura managed to kick her way loose, but found herself locked in the Izuyoi instead. Sakura did manage to reach the ropes. She dodged a basement cross body, hit the Rakataicho flying forearm. Haru tried to fight her way back with another cross body, but Sakura blocked the fisherman's suplex right into her Kagome pin, and that was enough for the victory in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. This is one I was really looking forward to when it got announced, and I don't think it disappointed. It was a little bit short, but I think it was pretty good for what it was. Next, we had a 6-woman tag contest. Hyper Misao teamed with Mihiro Kiryu and Shino Suzuki. They took on the love triangle of Raku, Pam Harajuku, and Yuki Aino. Surprise, there is a stipulation for this. So by the strong insistence of both teams, this was what they called a Bon Odori rules match, meaning that you must perform a soulful dance before you pin your opponent. Mr. Haku graciously explained to all of us that this is a folk dance that relates to a summer festival in Japan. Misao started on the mic saying everybody better be prepared to dance soulfully and instructs all 6 of the people to give a little bit of a demonstration. During the demonstration, Palm goes well overboard, starts hogging the spotlight. So Misao and Shino and Mihiro say this is as good a time as ever to start this match. They attack Palm. Mihiro is the first one to dance soulfully, followed by Shino. But Palm claimed that Shino was not dancing soulfully enough. Who put Palm in charge of that? That opens up an opportunity for the love triangle to hit the Oyasumi Express. Naturally, it was set to the Bon Odori music. Palm and Shino find themselves legal once again, and then Palm dares Shino into dancing once again, but it's just a trick to log roll her way through Shino's legs. Shino gets a little bit of revenge with a really beautiful looking dropkick, tags in Misao, who forgets to dance, and the crowd boos her because she forgets to dance before she pins. The rest of this match is complete with more dancing. We had a dance apology from Mihiro. We had a top rope dance from Raku, a dance-off between Shino and Aino. Aino ends up putting Shino in the full Nelson of Love and Fire, which Shino uses the power of dance to dance her way out of, but Aino quickly locks in a second full Nelson, and she gets the submission victory in 11 minutes and 41 seconds. The song was certainly catchy, but I think we heard it maybe like one too many times in an 11-minute match. Maybe this could have been a little bit shorter. Maybe you give a couple minutes to the singles match that preceded it. Also, how is Shino so uncoordinated when she literally dances for a living? That's my biggest takeaway from this. Our next contest was a tag match. Mifu Ishida and Natsu Sumire making her TJPW debut team together to take on Uber Eats, the first time we've seen Uber Eats since Vegas. Now for this one, we're about to get real unfamily friendly real fast as Sumire enters with some light up nipples and a lot of hip thrusts. Mifu had beautiful new gear here. She was completely overshadowed by whatever Sumire was doing on their way to the ring. Mifu did look absolutely fantastic, though. Kamiyu started out with Sumire and immediately broke up the thrusting with a couple of breast grabs. It's a technical term. Sumire answered back with a low blow. After they each block eye pokes, Mifu and Wakana tag in. Mifu gives Sumire a cheering welcome. Mifu has some new pom-poms as well to accompany her costume. Uber Eats ends up locking Mifu in a tandem submission, which Wakana follows up with a banana pillow. Sumire cheers Mifu on with the power of cheer and the pom-poms. Sumire ends up tagging back in. She tries to go for a Bronco Buster on Wakana. Thankfully, Wakana slips away from that, tags in Kamiyu. Kamiyu returns the low blow from earlier, then hits a Brain Buster. Natsu counters back with a flatliner, and then finally hits the Bronco Buster. And she was really letting Kamiyu have it too, up and down and side to side. She even continued gyrating on her face while she pinned her for a 2 count. Natsu then calls it a day. Literally, she was like, that's it. I've done my Bronco Buster. I'm done. It's all up to you now, Mifu. She tags Mifu back into the contest. She gets a little bit of offense in, but Mifu quickly succumbs to 2 Famousers in 12 minutes and 23 seconds, Kamiyu picking up the win for her team. Backstage, Uber Eats reminisced on their time as a tag team, given that Kamiyu is going to be retiring soon. It's coming up a lot quicker than I think a lot of us would like. Kamiyu asked if she could invite Wakana over when she accidentally cooks too much food, and you know Wakana was like, yes, absolutely. You call me there, I will be there. Sumire admitted that she was a little bit nervous before getting into the ring in her TJPW debut, but she felt that she performed well enough for TJPW to bring her back a little bit more for a longer-term stint in the company. Truthfully, it's probably best if I don't give any comments about what we saw here today. There was a lot of gyrating. It was fun. It was funny. I think Natsu somewhat fits in well with TJPW, certainly the comedy angle. She's a little less family-friendly than someone like a Shin Sakura Hirota, but still, there's a level of goofiness and a level of not taking yourself too seriously, which just marries itself incredibly well with what TJPW offers. Next, we saw another tag contest, this one a little bit more serious than the last. Himawari and Toga took on Kira Summer, the returning Kira Summer, and Chika Nanase. Chika is slowly turning more and more orange. She had parts of her hair dyed orange today. She's kind of like Violet Beauregard, but instead of a blueberry, she's like turning into a tangerine. Kira and Himawari start out with a nice exchange, followed by a powerful one between Toga and Chika. Kira then takes a bit of a beating with a number of hair whips from Himawari, a couple body slams from Toga. Those two hit this very nice rolling thunder natural selection combination attack. Kira and Chika try for some team offense of their own on Himawari, but Himawari fights back with a really nice looking spinning body drop. Toga and Chika then find their way back to each other. Toga sends Chika flying all around the ring with shoulder tackles, slams, elbows, everything. Chika did try to fight back, but unfortunately, she ended up tapping out to Toga's new stretch muffler submission in 12 minutes and 41 seconds. After the match, Toga welcomed back Kira, while Chika is once again frustrated. Can't wait for that to go nowhere again. Backstage, Himawari and Toga said that they felt confident after making it to the Tokyo Princess Cup semifinals. They praised both Kira and Chika, and they agreed to continue teaming together despite having some partners of their own, Himawari with Shino Suzuki in the Bumping Gritters, and Toga with Yuna Manase, who is currently out with injury as Hotshot. As we know, we'll see this team coming up in just a few short weeks on the September 5th show. They'll be in that number one contenders three-way match for the Princess Tag title shot at Wrestle Princess. I have to say, I think I've said it a couple times on the show, I really enjoy the team of Kira and Chika together. I think that their real-life friendship, it really shows in the chemistry that they have together in the ring. I feel like they should tag more often. We don't see them tagging together enough. They can really hone a little bit of a style, maybe some tandem tag moves, and I'd love to see them in the Max Heart in 2027. I think that could also really help Chika find some of the missing pieces in her presentation. Maybe something like this is exactly what she needs. The frustration thing, this comes up every couple of months with Chika, and it consistently goes nowhere, so I don't want to be pessimistic about it, but I'll believe it when I see it. I've said it a few times on the show. I think that's a really great avenue that they should lean into a lot harder than they are. Chika could be a terrific, Shades of Grey type of a player. And again, TJPW doesn't have heels and faces, really. They haven't had heels at least since Saki-sama days. But it would be neat to see Chika have that edge to her. Like I say, I'll just believe it when I see it because they have teased this frustration so many times. And within the next couple of shows, she's happy-go-lucky and everything is sunshine and rainbows. So crossing my fingers, not holding my breath. Things got real serious next. I shouldn't say serious because there was still a fair amount of insanity, but the wrestling really turned up a notch. We had a 6-woman tag. Miu Watanabe teamed with Arisu Endo and Ren Kanatsu. They took on the lovely team of Mizuki, Uda Takami, and visiting Mei Suruga. Uda started this one out running around like a mad lad, and Ren could only counter it by tossing her sheep to Uda and then crying because Uda stole the sheep. Uda was like, whatever, man. She chucked it right back at her, which absolutely awakened something in Ren. The rest of the goblins have to jump in and squeal incredibly loudly to help Uda out. Ren ate some offense from all three of the opponents. Miu was finally able to tag in. She double body slams Mizuki and Uda. She tried to giant swing Uda, but Mei came in to stop it and then proceeds to just kind of jump around the ring, kind of like House of Pain style, distracting Miu long enough for Uda to hit a Hurricane Rana. Mei then legally tagged in, and at this point, games were over. We see Watanabe and Suruga square off for the first time in forever. I think it's been 3 years since they've met in a wrestling ring. Miu blocks Mei's body scissors, and then Mei really wonderfully swam her way to the ropes with this ridiculous core strength to block the giant swing. Mei gets in the apple mutilation, probably the best name for a move, hands down. Watanabe, in order to counter it, just stands up while she's in the hold. Incredible stuff. Mei jumps one too many times, and Miu catches her in a giant swing. She follows that up with a Canadian backbreaker and a huge batting hammer. Arisu tagged in for a quick exchange with Mei. Mei landed a springboard double foot stomp and tagged in Mizuki. Mizuki hit a top rope flatliner, but Arisu managed to get Ren back in there. Ren hit the Kanatsu crush, and she got Mizuki into the shoulder bites. Mizuki countered that with a face lock. Arisu and Miu had to jump in to help out Ren, who managed to hit an Ares Comet. Things then break down considerably at this point. Mei gets tossed around by Miu, much to Aki's delight. Remember, Aki is on commentary here, her Best Bros partner. Mizuki manages to hit a whirling candy on Miu. That came almost out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting to see that in this match. And then Mizuki hits a cutie special, pins Ren Kanatsu in 12 minutes and 59 seconds. There's some extracurriculars afterwards between Mei and Miu, and then Mizuki and Arisu, and then Uda literally fell ass over tea kettle as she was exiting the ring. I don't quite know what happened there, but she took a tumble backwards, and Mizuki and Mei were like, Uda, no! And she was fine, but I don't know how that happened. Far and away the best match of the show so far. I think Mr. Haku said it best when he said that this was like watching a wrestling match on 1.5 speed. I think that accurately sums up what we were looking at. My personal favorite part of this was the Mei and Miu exchange. I think that would make for a great singles match someday. Also, Ren Kanatsu put in a huge spot here with the talent in this match, very high up the card, and she met everyone at that top tier level. I thought Ren looked really, really good here. Our semifinal, another tag match. Yuki Arai, our Princess of Princess champion, teamed up with the ace Miyu Yamashita. They took on the Kaiju team of Shoko Nakajima and Hiroyo Matsumoto. Hiroyo back from All Rise back in November, so quite a while since we've last seen Hiroyo. Shoko and Arai run back their Tokyo Princess Cup match to start us out. In the early going, Shoko tried to go for a tope to the outside against both opponents, but they nearly caught her into a suplex onto the floor. She blocked that just long enough for Hiroyo to lift her up and just yeet her outside of the ring. Back in, Hiroyo and Arai briefly crossed paths, but Arai and Shoko again get most of the time. Shoko nearly falls victim to another involuntary double team attack, but she counters a powerbomb, sending Hiroyo into Arai with a Hurricane Rana. Hiroyo and Yamashita then meet for the first time, kicking each other mercilessly, and Yamashita connects with a return crush. Arai tags back in, but Hiroyo quickly humbles her. Arai nearly eats a pile driver, but Yamashita is there to save her with a kick to Hiroyo's head. That gave Arai just enough of a window to collect herself, boot Hiroyo. She lands a spinning brain buster and tried for the full Nelson buster, which Hiroyo stuffs. Shoko comes back in trying to close it out, and Arai hits her with a beautiful top rope spinning brain buster. They replayed the bit from their Tokyo Princess Cup ending, where Arai goes for the scorpion lock, but Shoko rolled her up. This time she only gets 2. Shoko does hit the Northern Lights suplex and then the double underhook DDT, and as she goes to the top for her senton, things start to break down. She gets kicked by Yamashita, who is then hoisted up by Matsumoto. Shoko then uses a horizontal Yamashita as a stepping stone for her to leap over, and then Hurricane Rana Arai. That was beyond incredible. Arai dodges a 619, immediately hits the full Nelson Buster on Shoko, locks her in the Scorpion Lock, where Shoko taps out in 15 minutes and 51 seconds to give Yuki Arai her win back. Backstage, Arai and Yamashita discussed facing off against Hiroyo for the first time. Arai mentioned that she's open to facing her in a singles match. On the other side of things, Matsumoto admits that she underestimated Arai because of the different paths they both took to get into wrestling, but that facing her really changed her perception and it allowed her to recognize Arai fully as a professional wrestler. These two have a little bit of history. When Arai was a member of SKE 48, she was training, auditioning, she was appearing on some sort of a television show where she was playing a wrestler, like acting as a wrestler, and Matsumoto was the coordinator for the show to teach the actors how to wrestle. And this was a number of years ago, and now here we are where Yuki Arai was seemingly bit by the bug and became a wrestler and is really great at it. She's now the Princess of Princess champion. These two, though, have a lot of history between them in that sense. Every time that Matsumoto has come into TJPW, she has teamed with Yuki Arai because of that history. So this was the first time they faced each other. And these words that Matsumoto gave here at the end really carry a lot of meaning, knowing all of that backstory. Our main event was for all the marbles of the Tokyo Princess Cup. the final match, Suzume taking on Rika Tatsumi. These two have met 5 times before, an edge held here by Rika, who's won 4 of those contests. The last time they met was back in 2023 for Rika's International Princess title. To get here, Suzume defeated Shion Kanzaki, Pam Harajuku, Shoko Nakajima, and Himawari. Rika defeated Miyu Yamashita, Hyper Misao, and Toga. Rika had a first-round bye. Rika immediately went on the attack against the knee. Suzume tried to answer back with a couple of quick pinfall attempts. Suzume attempted a plancha to the outside, but was met with a choke by Rika. They fought outside, where Rika wrapped Suzume up in the collected streamers from under the ring and then sent her flying into the bleachers. She immediately connected with a hip attack into the cocoon that was Suzume, and then multiple drop kicks drove Suzume into the ring post. Back in, Rika continued the assault on Suzume's knee. She caught her in a tree of woe with another hip attack. Suzume fought back with a face buster. Then she landed that plancha to the outside. She followed that up with another crossbody inside, but Rika rolls through for a pin attempt and continued to maintain the advantage in this one. She caught Suzume with a couple of sleepers. She couldn't transition it into the White Dragon sleeper, though. Suzume managed an inverted dropkick and a dropkick onto the apron, but Rika, still not giving up the full advantage, she grabbed Suzume into a choke. Suzume did kick her way free, hit a facebuster from the ring apron down to the floor. After a quick Suzume pin back inside, Rika gets the advantage right back once again, targeting Suzume's knee. She had a drop kick, a dragon screw, and then immediately went into that figure 4. Suzume reached the ropes, and Rika then just smacked her upside the head. Brutal stuff. Rika landed another hip attack. She got 2. Then she attempted the twist of fate, but Suzume twisted that into a gory bomb. Her hair briefly got caught up in Rika's gear, and Suzume came out of that looking like a crazy person. Her hair was all over the place. I don't think I've ever seen her not in twin tails during a match. It was an interesting sight. We then see a tightrope facebuster, a twist of fate, and a ring a bell back to back to back, all in about 20 seconds. They were both down. Fumarine started to count them down until she got to 9. A rare, double knockout count like that in TJPW. Both of them reached their feet right in the nick of time. They started battering each other with elbows. Suzume met a hip attack with a drop kick, quite literally kicking Rika's butt. She rolled Rika into a 2 count, then hit a basement ring a bell. She tried to go for a second one, but Rika caught her right into the White Dragon sleeper. Suzume somehow rolled out of it and began choking Rika. Suzume never thought she would revert to those tactics, but here we are. Rika ends up choking her right back for a bit of dual chokes, and then Rika just starts violently shaking her around, kind of like the Homer Simpson, Bart Simpson meme. Suzume popped right up with a drop kick, but Rika caught her with a sleeper once again. Suzume rotated out so that Rika pushed her off into the ropes, where Suzume was quick enough to springboard off the ropes, hit a springboard ring-a-bell, which won her the match in 20 minutes and 46 seconds. Afterwards, Suzume celebrated her first Tokyo Princess Cup win. She thanked Rika for the spirited fight. Rika was a good sport. She raised Suzume's hand despite probably feeling some conflicted emotions. Suzume then called out Yuki Arai and officially challenged for her Princess of Princess title at Wrestle Princess 7. Suzume closed out the show by saying that she is approaching her 7th anniversary in wrestling, and she said that TJPW taught her that people can have new dreams at any age in their life, and her new dream is to win the Princess of Princess title. Backstage, Suzume said that she intends to pursue the Princess of Princess title without abandoning her International Princess title or some of the goals that she has for that one. She's talked quite a bit about spreading TJPW internationally, and as the International Princess Champion, she feels it's her duty to really spread TJPW around quite a bit, so that's her goal for that title. She says that holding both championships means pursuing 2 separate dreams rather than having any intentions to combine the 2 belts. So she is very much thinking of becoming a dual champion and thinking of these titles independently. Rika expressed some frustration in losing after coming so far this summer. Rika had a heck of a tournament. She had some tremendous, tremendous matches. Fortunately came up just a little bit short. Arai also gave some comments. She said that she's been closely following Suzume's tournament, and she watched her grow brighter and brighter with every match, which ultimately makes her want to face the strongest version of Suzume come Wrestle Princess 7. The last 5 to 7 minutes of that main event was just absolutely awesome. Their timing, their choreography, everything was practically perfect. The entire match was good, but that last stretch was just something special. Even though they had that one gaffe with the hair, which was completely out of their control, that could honestly happen to anybody at any time. In a way, I kind of feel like it added to the match in the long run because it made Suzume's hair look so ridiculously messy, like she was just getting her butt whooped, and that was the whole construct of this match. Rika was in control for at least 2/3 of this match, so Suzume looking beaten and shaken, I think it really added to the story, really added to the emotion, the comeback that Suzume had. If you go and you look at Cage Match, today's Thursday as I'm recording this, so this could likely change by the time you hear this, but looking at Cage Match, this is the third highest rated TJPW match of 2026, only behind Suzume and Miu Watanabe from the January 4th show, and then the Spark Rush tag match at Grand Princess, where those two faced Arisu Endo and Miyu Yamashita. I know Cage Match can be a little bit volatile based on who is ranking the match, and with any aggregate like that, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but that's impressive. For this to be the third highest rated match of 2026, I'm not sure if it'll stay there at the end of the year. There might end up being a little bit of recency bias in this rating, but all that said, this was a damn good match. You have to go and seek this one out if you have not watched it yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it does fall in at least the top 5 come year's end. Overall, a very strong show for one that had no title matches on it. The attendance doesn't really show it, but I think this was a really well put together show to cap off the Tokyo Princess Cup tournament. You had a little bit of comedy, some special guests, a debut. Shion got her first singles win. There was even dancing, the crowning of Suzume as the cup winner. Besides the main event, the 6-woman tag, the non-dancing one, that was great. The Haru and Sakura match was great. The semifinal was pretty good. To me, this show is a definite recommend. I think you have to go out of your way to see this. To put a bow on the Princess Cup, I truly think that this is in the running for the best tournament in history. The first round was a touch weak due to the amount of people that were in the bracket. I don't think the entire roster needed to be in this bracket, but everything that followed that led to some really great matches, some surprising upsets, and in the end, it was a genuine mystery on who would win the entire thing. The finals probably takes the best match for me. I just thought that match was so well done by Rika and Suzume, but besides that, just going off the top of my head, we had the excellent match between Rika and Yamashita. That was wonderful. Shoko and Arai had a great match. Suzume and Shoko. Aino and Miu Watanabe was great. Hyper Misao had a big run going through Mizuki. She had that really great showing against Rika before falling short. There were the shocking upsets from Himawari and Toga beating Arisu and Yuki Aino. I'm not going to pretend to remember every single Princess Cup match ever, or frankly that I've seen every single Princess Cup match ever, but I can't imagine a tournament as complete and as well packaged as this year's tournament. Just top to bottom, I thought the wrestling quality was there, the intrigue was there, and like I say, coming into this finals match, it truly could have gone either way. You can't ask for much more than that as you look at this tournament overall. Just a tremendous, tremendous tournament. Has to be looked at as a success for TJPW. So many great wrestlers in this tournament, and truthfully, so many great wrestlers in Joshi as a whole. I always enjoy seeing when someone from TJPW, someone from Stardom, or really any of the Joshi companies make it into those PWI lists, like the PWI 250 or the Tag Team 100 list. It almost makes you wonder what an all Joshi top list would look like. Well, you don't have to wonder for that long, because today, the final installment of Resura's Joshi Top 100 releases, rankings number 25 through number 1. My good friend Justin Stein, one of the talented individuals over at Resura, stops by right now to chat this year's list. Who grabbed number 1, where a few of the TJPW ladies sit, and just how the heck do you put together a list as difficult as this one? Very, very excited to be joined today by Justin Stein from WrestlerMag.com. You guys over at Resura have a tremendous list that you're building, the top 100 Joshi wrestlers, a huge undertaking. We're going to talk all about that today, but before we get there, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing quite all right. It's definitely an exciting time in Joshi Pro Wrestling with all of the tournaments going on and big shows coming up for the rest of the year and so forth. Like, there's probably never been more talent in Joshi than there is today. I mean, I personally didn't really watch a lot of like the 80s and 90s stuff, so I can't speak on that. But from what a lot of people say, this is about as talented as the Joshi scene ever gets. So I'm a really happy person when it comes to that sort of thing.
I think that's the best place for us to start too. I'm glad you just brought us right into it because I'd love to know how you got into Joshi wrestling. And then once you got into it, what made you want to cover it as a writer and start publishing different articles and tier lists and everything?
So I would say my first entry into understanding what Joshi wrestling is, or any of the wrestlers who came from Joshi, is back in Shimmer. Probably like early, like maybe 2010-ish. I think it was around Shimmer 21 or 22 had just like released like around that time. And I had always heard that like that's like the best place to watch like women's wrestling in America, at least when it comes to getting to see the most talent and so forth. Because obviously at that time we had, TNA, and you also had WWE, but like the there wasn't really like the give divas a chance thing happening at the time yet. Like, there was a lot of things that were still kind of the old style, and I wanted to find like some really awesome women's wrestling, so I went ahead and like decided to buy a few DVDs, and they were all really good shows. And from there, I just started kind of like buying like the back catalog and getting the new stuff as it came. And then I think it had to do with the big like tsunami around that time frame. One of the things that they had for Shimmer was something called Joshi for Hope, which is like a group of, I think it was Ice Ribbon and like Wave and like a lot of the small companies you would see like today still in Joshi. They basically came together and were like, hey, we want to spread Joshi around and so forth. And Joshi wasn't as like big of a deal during those years. But what ended up happening is Dave Prazak from Shimmer got a hold of these Joshi talents and started bringing in like say 4 or 5 every single round of tapings, which they would do like 4 over a weekend. And one of the early people who I saw was Kana, who everyone now knows as Asuka. I enjoyed like watching that and seeing like so many wrestlers come through there, like Ryo Mizunami, Tsukasa Fujimoto. They had Ray and Leon back in the day, like before Ray had eventually passed, unfortunately. Um, Tomoka Nakagawa was pretty much always there. Hiroyo Matsumoto. It was a lot of like really good talents who people may not have heard of over here in America because it wasn't as easy to see stuff, online for like Japanese wrestling at the time. So it was a really cool introduction. And when Kana got signed to WWE, I was like, okay, like this is interesting. Like, I'm hoping for the best or so forth, and I still kind of stayed into it from there. And when we got to 2019, Stardom came to America for WrestleMania weekend, and I had always heard of Stardom, but I never had actually watched them. So I went ahead and just like purchased the stream, and I watched that show. I enjoyed it. The main person who stood out to me was Hana Kimura. She was like just an absolute like charismatic dynamo. That's what I would say about her. She was incredible when it comes to that sort of thing, and like her in ring was good enough, but like she just drew you in. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like I'm seeing some really cool wrestlers here. I kind of want to like look into it, and I ended up looking up a video that was like, hey, this is where you should start if you want to start watching soon or whatever. And it basically said like, hey, start at the draft of 2019 where Tokyo Cyber Squad was created and so forth. And I started watching at that point with Stardom, and from there I've been pretty much watching Joshi ever since. I think I got into TJPW itself maybe in 2020 more so. I think it was kind of the draw of like Maki Ito, seeing some stuff online with her and a few of the others. So it kind of drove me to like check it out, and I started enjoying that as well. And then over the years, I've just sort of tried to expand what I've been watching, and seeing more and more stuff that's on the Joshi scene. Because, like I said, so much talent and so many people you may not see unless you look for them. So I try to do what I can.
And you guys are covering all of that talent at Resura. For someone who's never been to the Resura website or read any of the articles that you guys are posting, what exactly are you guys talking about over there? What are some of the different articles, the different promotions? What are you guys covering over at restoramag.com?
So with Resura Mag, the entire idea is to try to be positive in general. Like, we're not gonna be like incredibly positive to where you can't say like, "Hey, maybe this is the wrong thing," or whatever. But we're trying to be positive about Joshi wrestling as a whole. And the whole idea behind the site is we're trying to take something that may not be as like accessible easily for people who don't speak Japanese, obviously. We want this to be accessible to people who speak English, who have maybe a little bit of interest in one or two wrestlers who they may have seen over the years. And with Resura, we're trying to do, I would say, articles that are like covering certain wrestlers or covering certain topics or covering certain promotions, things like that, that'll kind of like give people what they want when it comes to like trying to get information or stuff like that. So we're just trying our best to show our appreciation to the awesome wrestlers who wrestle over in Japan, um, and they're all putting their bodies on the line. So the least we can do is try to do what we can to help them be seen by other people who may not have found them otherwise. That's kind of why we also do the lists and other things like that too, because people love tier lists and things like that online. Like it's people always want to be able to like have a conversation about things, and I think that with Resura we can try to help spark some of that if we can.
That's one of the things I really enjoy about your guys' coverage of just Joshi wrestling in general is you don't not only do you guys do show reviews and kind of work through results and give some match grades and everything, but you're also going deeper and you're looking at starter packs for certain wrestlers or how you watch certain promotions. And that barrier for entry makes it so much more simple for people who are new to it, or maybe someone who loves TJPW. They're very interested in getting more interested in something like Ice Ribbon and just finding that easy way to get in and learn about who the major players are, the history of the promotion, the history of those wrestlers. I love all of that stuff that you guys do. And of course, you mentioned the tier lists, you mentioned all of the other lists. We're here today to talk about the top 100 list. I don't know how the hell you guys put together a top 100. It is very, very impressive. As you all are listening to this right now, the top 100 is posted over at wrestleramag.com. The top 25 just getting posted earlier today. And I'm sure you'll be getting a number of emails and a number of comments based on all of the rankings. But before we start talking about the rankings and kind of where everybody slots, and before I start to argue with you about why Raku isn't number one, how overall does this list come together? How do you take this ginormous Joshi scene that we're talking about and simplify it down into a tiered list of 100, the top 100?
I would say that it's difficult, but not at the same time. So what I try to do is like obviously with any sort of list, any sort of opinion related thing, you're gonna have biases. And what I do with this list, with the project itself, is I try to take out as much bias as possible. What we do is we kind of base it loosely off of what PWI does for their list. But obviously, like you said, lists are hard to make. So what we do is we try to base it off of three main components. The first one is skill. So what we do with the skill rating, the skill is basically match quality. So what we're looking for is like how good are the matches, how much you enjoying them, how good of a wrestler do you think they've been this year, and so forth. That is something that we rate out of a 20-point scale. What we'll do is I'll have usually 8 people total will work on this with me, and all of us will go through and rate every single wrestler that we know of from that year. So any wrestlers we've seen, say like 3 or 4 matches of at least, we'll go ahead and put some sort of rating for the, match quality of them. The second part is influence, which we're also putting the same sort of grade with, and that normally goes to who is like most like who basically is the biggest names in their company or in the Joshi scene. So like if someone in TJPW, if you're going through their ratings, for instance, like a Miu Yamashita is one of their biggest stars. She's very important. She's a constant main eventer normally. So maybe her rating would be like a 9 or something, like that's going to boost her up over someone who is like a Shion Kanzaki who might be like a 3 because she is, very new. She's a rookie. Like she doesn't really have a lot of influence in that way. And then the other part is competition, which is like how many big matches do they have? Like what kind of opponents are they going against? If you have someone like who's in TJPW, for instance, there's a lot of really good talent there, but some of their competition levels, like at like the baseline, might be slightly lower than say like a Stardom or another company who is seen as being like more of like a sports type of entertain or sports type of wrestling where they're like very very like hard hitting matches all the time and so forth because ultimately they're going through the grinder even more in that situation. So we try to base it on those three things. We give those grades, and that comes out to basically an overall composite grade. So once we have that, that's one part of the process. The other parts that we have is we take a look at their accomplishments, which is any titles they're currently holding during our scoring period as well as any titles they held during the scoring period overall. So if they had like a title for say 80 days of the scoring period, that will be marked on there. However many defenses they had, we'll go ahead and put that on there as well, just so everyone has the same baseline of understanding this person did this year and so forth. And then we also, under the accomplishments, we'll look at awards and stuff as well. So like if they are on the PWI lists, we'll put that on there. If they won like the Tokyo Sports Women's Award, that stuff will be on there. Things like that that kind of like builds the resume for these wrestlers. And then another part of it is we look at like how many matches they had and what was their win percentage because if you're booked strongly, you should be higher on the list most of the time, unless that's the best way to try to like gauge things. Obviously, you're trying to manage all three of the main things, but that's also a part of it because if someone wins 30% of their matches, they shouldn't be number one overall, even if their matches were really good. Like that's just not how it should work, in my opinion. So I built it this way to try to like make it to where you can use numbers to kind of help guide you a little bit, but the part that you can't really do that with as much is just the titles and accomplishments, which is where it becomes like what's more important to one person to another. And that's where you get some like broken down communication between people of like, well, I think this person should be higher or lower or so forth. When it comes to the actual like makeup the list, what I end up doing is I will have the top 30 will be chosen based on everyone submitting a top 25. So I give them all this information. I say, hey, keep in mind this information, make your top 25. And then basically I'll do points. So like first place will get 25 points, 25th would get one. And then I just go through, it all goes by numbers. That's our top 30. And then I give everyone a chance to say, hey, should anyone move up or down from this? Yes or no. Once that's done, the next part of it is just me. So what I'll do is I'll go through and take everyone else that's available otherwise, and I'll go through and just try to manage like, okay, are we having too many people from one company like in a row? Like we can break that up a little bit, because if someone is 2 or 3 spots down to where they could have been, it's not the end of the world. So like I try to do that to manage things a little bit. I try to keep in mind different titles of different strengths. So like if it's the high speed title compared to the world stardom title, or you have like the international princess title to the prince of the princess, those things hold different weight. So I try to like keep that stuff in mind as well. And I eventually make 31 through 100. And then I give everyone a chance also to, be like, hey, this person should be here. We should be moving people around or whatever. So I basically will do what I can. We eventually have the full list, and from there we just have to do the write ups and everything else. But it's a fun collaborative process, and it's something I've enjoyed doing the last 2 years, and obviously this year as well. So I'm hoping that people will enjoy the list. Obviously, it's not going to be like as perfect as it could be because it's perfect to everyone is different. But we're trying to do a service here to make sure people know who the best wrestlers were in our opinion for this year. So that's what we're trying to go for.
With any list, there's always a certain element of subjectivity to it. Everybody's going to have a different number one, a different top 10, a different top 100, certainly when you get to that quantity of wrestlers. So, segueing into this top 100, is there anybody on the final rankings that surprised you? Maybe they were ranked a little bit lower down, closer to 100 than you might have thought, or vice versa? Maybe someone who was a pleasant surprise that made it quite high on the list?
There's always ones that might be like when you look at the final list, you're kind of like, wow, that person is really low or really high or whatnot. Like this year, for instance, when it comes to Stardom, Micah was 89th, and last year she was 14th, and I think the year before she was top 10. But part of that came down to the fact that she was injured for a decent amount of the grading period, and when she came back, while she had a good winning percentage at 58%, she also has not won any titles. She has no accomplishments during the time period. And all she really had going for her was her overall rank. The grade or whatever was like pretty decent at a 7.38. But that's not anything that like is gonna really push her into like a really big stratosphere. So like if you're looking at the list as who are the best 100 wrestlers at like wrestling, Micah's going to be higher on that list probably. She's not going to be one below Ruaka. But when it comes to what you've actually done for us this year, she really hasn't done a lot. And I feel like sometimes people don't take that part into account because you do have those situations where like, in past years, Takumi Iroha, like sometimes she would be great in the whatever 50 matches she would have, but then other times just like please do something. Like just win a title, like have some big main events, do something. And like now she's doing that, which is why everyone's like celebrating her, Like you just never know what's gonna happen until you put the list together, or you put the ratings together and everything else, and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of see how things are like, molding together. I would say too, like the if you look at, for instance, TJPW in itself, this year we have Yuki Arai at 32. So Yuki Arai is someone who I personally had in my top 25. She was like right towards the bottom, maybe like 24th, 25th. So she wasn't getting a lot of points for that, but she had a good enough resume to where even when it became time to just start ranking whoever's left out of that top 30, she was like a shoe in to be really high because she's princess champion for 93 days of our grading period. She was that. She had 3 defenses. Her overall rank was an 8.17, which is actually pretty strong. She was booked very strongly. She's putting on better matches than before. I mean, if you look at the year before, she was 53rd on our list. So like you can kind of see how over time people's mindset changes on some of these wrestlers where like, hey, they're putting on really good matches, or hey, their matches aren't quite as good this year, and that's not driving as much. And if you're not having those accomplishments, then it it won't end up helping you in the end. So that's like one of those where like it's interesting to kind of see people move up and down and so forth. And like there's definitely wrestlers who I think could be definitely higher, but at the end of the day, those top 30, all depends on what each of those people thought and how those points broke down, which is part of why someone like a Mizuki at 30 is above Yuki Arai when I would say that Yuki Arai had a better year personally. You never know how it's going to go until you start putting stuff together. So,
And we should probably mention too this because the grading period has come up a couple of
mhm.
times. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The grading period is from July through June. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So from July through June. So I think as you guys go and kind of read through all of these rankings and see who's in these top 100, definitely keep that in mind that the grading period going from July for this particular list, July of 2025 through June of 2026. I love that you brought us to TJPW. You knew we were getting there because, of
Of
course,
course.
we are a TJPW podcast. So you actually took the words right out of my mouth too, because the first bone to pick that I had with you guys was Yuki Rai at 32. But it's so interesting to hear again some of the method to the madness that goes into driving that ranking and how it can fluctuate year over year. And it makes complete sense too, especially when you think Arai just won that Princess of Princess title in March of this year. So she's really only had it for about 3 months within the grading period. And when you look back before that, there wasn't as much going on. She was between the International Princess title reign and then the Princess of Princess title reign, like you say. So it's interesting to see all of that kind of come together. Somebody else that is interesting to me too is I have the TJPW list in front of me here, but one of the people that has just had probably one of the hottest last 6 to 12 months has to be Uda Takami. Max Hart, runner up. She challenges for the tag titles earlier this year. In the fall of last year, wins the Next Gen tournament, challenges for the International Princess title, but yet she is not in the top 100. How close was Uda to making it? And is there anything that maybe kept her out in particular? Because I also see another young upstart with TJPW and Haru ended up making it as an honorable mention. So what kind of separated those two, knowing that they're almost neck and neck within TJPW?
So, I do really like Uda Takami. Like she's been an awesome wrestler, especially for the last maybe year and a half, 2 years almost. Because like she's really picked up wrestling really well. And I think her being around Miu Watanabe all the time probably helps that as well. Even though she's not like tagging with her as much, it's more so Mizuki, which she's learning a bunch from as well. But so Uda for me, part of what held her down this year was she had a sub 500 win percentage. So like that doesn't help. The next generation tournament is a tournament win. However, it only involves what, 6 people, 7 people. So like it's not the highest brand of competition, which I think it obviously helps, but it doesn't like take her over the top. But what I would say is like if we're looking at some of the grading and stuff like that, for instance, Uda Takami for match quality was a 6.83 when it comes to everyone grading it together. But her influence was only a 6.25 because she's still young. She's being booked strongly when it comes to like the other younger competitors, but in the grand scheme of things, like she's not as booked strongly otherwise. Like even though she does get a shot at a title, the likelihood of her winning isn't always the highest. Obviously, with tag titles, it can go up and down based on who the partners are and so forth. But like when she was going for the International Princess title, I don't think anyone thought she was actually going to win. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So that kind of kept her down a bit, and her competition was a 6.42. So that also wasn't super high. Where if we look at Haru, her match quality grades that we gave her was a 6.92. Her influence was slightly above that at 6.33, or above Uda's. And then her competition was 6.67, which would put her, yeah, just basically barely over Uda Takami. So yeah, that would be like the main reason. Like it really wasn't a big difference between the two. It just unfortunately there wasn't enough to really push Uda up into the top 100 because you'll find that once you get to like 75 to 100, you start finding a lot of people who are like veterans and stuff. Who you're just like, I don't know if they can miss the list. You know what I mean? Like, I think the very first list ever, we put Jaguar Yokota at like 100 because I was just like, she's like 60 and she's like putting on pretty good matches and like doing really awesome stuff. It's like I have to put her on this list, you know? Like, and this year at number 100 we had Miran, who is like an amazing underager who is wrestling in Diana. And then, there's always next year because I do think Uta is definitely rising up the ranks. And it wouldn't surprise me if she's like a international princess champion in like 2 or 3 years at max. Because I mean, she's been growing leaps and bounds over the last few years.
Yeah, I would definitely think Uda in future years, Haru as well, probably kind
Mhm.
of edges her way out of that honorable mention spot. Haru as well. I don't want to compare them head to head, but Haru has had almost the same amount of accomplishments as Uda. So
Mhm.
it's again, it's so fascinating to hear all of the science and the thought that goes in behind it and seeing just how close some of these decisions are. And again, I like that you guys are doing all of these checks and balances. And at the end of the day, there's a little bit of a human component too, because there are some things that would just make more sense, as you've outlined with like Jaguar Yokota, or when you look head to head at a Haru and an Uda. So it all makes sense. We should mention as well the top ranked TJPW wrestler on the list is Miu Watanabe this year, coming in at number 5. There's a host of talented women from TJPW on the list, but I highly encourage all of you listeners, again, go check out this full list at wrestlermag.com. Miu Watanabe coming in at number 5. She isn't just the highest ranked TJPW wrestler on the list, but she's in the top 5 of all of the Joshi wrestlers on this list. What separated Miu from the rest of the pack in TJPW and cemented her in that top five conversation?
So I would say Miu Watanabe, when she had the Princess of Princess Championship, was probably, in my opinion, like for sure top three, maybe even top two in the world. Like at the time, like she was incredible as a champion, and she was putting on matches that you didn't expect to see sometimes in TJPW, where like you were getting, a little bit of comedy thrown in here and there, but like they were really hard hitting emotional matches. And like personally, her and Suzume's match for the January 4th is like possibly still my match of the year. Like it was so good. Like just the littlest things, both of them put so much into it. And a lot of that is Miyu Watanabe. Like she is a lot of brains behind a lot of things that happened at the top end of the card for TJPW. And truly believe that if she did not lose the title and if she kept on, having more, like say she had two more, three more defenses and was able to wrestle against people who maybe aren't like main event level that people would think of, but still put together a great story and a great match with these people, I think that she honestly would have been like pushing possibly the top three, even on like a lot of people's lists, because she did have a lot of people like backing her. The issue is that there are still some people who just don't value TJPW, I don't think, as much as they may value other companies. And when you start looking at accomplishments and things like that, there's only so much you can do in TJPW. Where in some of the other companies, maybe there's like more titles available, or you just get seen more. Like the fact that Miyu Watanabe is like apparently going to be on like a Kenta Kobashi like show is pretty amazing. That's crazy. I never thought I'd see that. But part of the thing is like those type of shows have like the Saris and the Mayu Iwatanis and the Sayakamatani's and like some of these other big names where like you're seeing them more often, where Miyu, unless you're a TJPW fan, you may not see. And I think that has hurt her a little bit. But I still did whatever I could with my own personal list to get her as high as I could. And I think that she truly deserves it. She had an incredible year, and I'm really excited to see what she does in the future.
I have to agree with you. I mean, I think in a few years, if not the near future, Watanabe's, as long as she wants to do this, she is primed for some really special things.
Mhm.
She's going to follow in the footsteps of all four of the pillars and likely win this. It's not just a matter of winning that Princess of Princess title anymore. It's now how many times is she
Mhm.
going to win this title? Is she going to pass Miyu Yamashita's record? Will she really cement herself as an ace? So you mentioned the top five. You mentioned the insanely talented women that are in the top five, the likes of Mayu Iwatani, Miyu Watanabe that we're talking about, Sari, Saya Kamatani. Something I noticed, all different promotions as well, which I think is really speaks to that depth and that breadth of Joshi wrestling that you were talking about that started us off. But number one this year, very interesting choice, but it makes sense when you really think about it. Coming in at number one is Chihiro Hashimoto from Sendai Girls. What ultimately made Chihiro the number one Joshi wrestler of the grading period? And then my quick follow up is why is it not Raku?
All right. Well, the Raku part, I'm gonna have to, think about. I'll table
You
that for
can
a
let
second
that one
here.
lie. You can let that
Yeah,
one lie.
I'll have it sit in the back of the mind for a minute there. But Chihiro Hashimoto this year has been basically the biggest Grim Reaper of like Joshi wrestling when it comes to she is the big bad like boogeyman, like anyone who faces her is going against an absolute wall. And if you survive it, you are like one of the best. And even if you lose, you're gonna probably have one of the best matches you've ever had against her. And she is basically, along with like the diary series, like the videos that they do for Sendai Girls, she is one of the biggest reasons why Sendai Girls is like getting so popular now. Because not only are you getting stuff from those like YouTube videos, but she as a champion is at the very, very top of her game, and she is making every single person around her that much better, and she's making people want to see the matches whether it's for the title or not. So this year she had the title for the entire year. She only defended it 4 times, but that's because Sendai Girls normally will leave those defenses for like their big shows, which normally happen like 4 or 5 times a year at most. She also had the Sendai Girls Tag Team Championship for 160 days of our grading period and had 4 defenses during that as well, where it was basically the U retirement tour that was happening with the Team 200 kg. Those two girls were just rolling over every single person that they went against. And so that those two things helps right away because when you have 8 total defenses in a year, that's pretty good to over 2 titles. Her rating was a 9.84, which I believe is one of the highest we've ever had. It looks like in 2025, Miu Watanabe had a 9.81, and then 2024, Miu Watani had a 9.94, which is the highest we've ever had, I guess. But yeah, the just 9.84 for someone who is not in like a stardom company is pretty, pretty insane. And that was like match quality was a 9.93. That means one person didn't give her a 10. They gave her a 9.5. So I think all of that together is why Chihiro is just a guaranteed. Like she had to get number one. She deserved it for this year. And whether that'll happen again next year, we'll see. Um, she has a big title match coming up against Mika Iwata, so maybe she'll lose a title. Who knows? But what she's done for Sendai Girls ever since Meiko Satomura retired has been huge, and she is truly what's like helping that company grow and get bigger. Not only in Japan but overseas as well. So, she, in my opinion, she definitely deserved to be number one, even though if you look at someone like a Saya Kamatani, for instance, you look at like some of the awards she won and stuff. Some people could argue that she would deserve it because of being the Tokyo Sports MVP award winner, something that a woman has never done. You know what I mean? Like things like that. That would have put her right there in the running. But Chihiro was just like you couldn't say no to that. She was just too good this year.
You want to talk about an ace of a company? I mean, my goodness, if there's
Hmm.
any ace in Sendai Girls, certainly after the Meiko Satomura era, it is Chihiro Hashimoto. I love that you highlight her so well, though, because she isn't at one of the major top two, top three companies. She's not wrestling. She does wrestle in Stardom, but she is not contracted into Stardom. Doesn't wrestle in Tej. Doesn't wrestle in Marigold or really any of the other bigger companies that are out there. She's in Sendai Girls, which is definitely fast rising and very quickly climbing up into that top three promotions list with Joshi Wrestling. But looking at this list as a whole, I think what I'm gathering is one of the main goals is just to celebrate Joshi Wrestling and share Joshi Wrestling, and then recommend different Joshi Wrestling as well and kind of spotlight different women.
Yeah.
For someone who looks at this top 100 list and they realize there's 40 names on here that I don't know, who should they be looking at? Give us maybe one or two names of someone a little bit more under the radar that you would recommend listeners start to check out and start to look at their match catalog.
I would probably look down the list a little bit because we do have like there's some wrestlers towards the top who maybe like do a pretty good job of mixing in a little bit of comedy with the good wrestling as well, which I think that that's kind of the pool of something like TJPW, for instance. One person I would bring up, it depends on whether you consider it wrestling or not, but there's a company called Actress Girls that is very much based a lot like TJPW, where the acting and like what they do in the ring and how they emote and stuff like that is very important to them because they're all stage kids who were brought into wrestling basically or idols. And one person who had a really good year this year was Marino Saihara, who is, in my opinion, the ace of actress girls at this point. People may have seen her a couple years ago because she dressed up like Squirrel Girl. Like that was kind of her entire gimmick was she was just Squirrel Girl, and now she's basically a superhero, kind of like a Captain Marvel like sort of looking thing. Where she is also like the leader of like the main stable that is Babyface. There are like 5 of them. They're called Actress Five. They all have colors like they're Power Rangers. It's very nice. Like it's something that's kind of lighthearted, but she's also an incredible wrestler. She had the main championship in that company for 172 days of our grading period this year. She had the tag team titles for 218 days of the grading period this year. So she had a hell of a year, and she's someone who I think people would enjoy if they like TJPW. Like I think Actress Girls would be a good way of like bouncing over to something else that's like a little bit similar. When it comes to like other wrestlers who would be up there, I would say, I mean, someone who I would always say is worthwhile is Kaho Kobayashi. She's a freelancer. I don't know if she's ever been to TJPW. It's something that she probably should one of these days because she's a very fun wrestler. But she's like very muscle bound. She can do a lot of like quick, like high speed stuff. She also has a side character in Seedling called La Padita, where she wrestles under a mask. She comes out with maracas. Right now they're heels, so they're not doing that. She comes out with maracas and is like it's all like party and stuff, and it's like a just a really fun gimmick that I think would really work well in TJPW. So she's someone who I think would be interesting for that, and of course one of my favorites when it comes to comedy, but also being a total awesome wrestler who can just take the sickest bumps. Momoko Hanazono. She is like one of my personal favorites on the indies, or uptown, if you want to call them indie, whatever. But she really didn't do a ton this year. Like she held titles but didn't really defend them. She had like a 40% win percentage, so it wasn't great. But you knew that every time that she was in a match, you were gonna start laughing because she's hilarious. But she would be someone who I think would be like really, really good in TJPW if she was brought in like more often, like kind of a on again, off again thing, sort of like Ram Kaicho, for instance. That would be kind of fun to see her there. Those would probably be like some of the people who I would like point out just as easy ones to think of. But I'm sure there's a lot of other people on the list who others may be like, oh, this person would actually be quite good there.
It's again, it's a great list. It's all up at restoramag.com, all 100. I believe you split it into four separate articles, right? To
Correct.
keep it easier for reading. But there's so many
Hmm.
great recommendations in there. And like we said earlier, there's a little paragraph that comes with each, not only to kind of articulate why they're placed where they are, but it also gives you a little bit of a lens. And we talked about that earlier, that the whole staff over there at Resura does such a great job of going beyond just results and match ratings and really getting readers to learn who these competitors are and why they should care about these competitors. So I encourage everybody to go read the entire list because it's a great list. As we mentioned, the grading period ends on June 30th. So we're about 2 months into this upcoming list. I'm sure you're like, I don't want to think about this already. We just wrapped this. The top 25 just went up today, but we are 2 months into next year's grading period. Is anybody already making a case in the last 2 months that you are kind of mentally taking a note on where you're like, okay, when it comes time to really put all this together, this person's going to have to be top 25, top 10?
So it's difficult because, a lot of things will change based like you could have someone who seems really, really good for a month and then all of a sudden like they just fall off and there's not a whole lot. So right now, because a lot of this time that I've been working on getting this finished and released and everything, we've had tournament season happening right now. And one of the people who is, definitely making a plea to the people of like, hey, like I'm even better than I already was and so forth is Rena from Stardom. She had an incredible match on Tuesday. Made me feel all the feels because of the Hana Kimura connection and all that stuff. This year she was 15th on our list, and that was just, she was basically that because of a strong overall rating and then four defenses with an artist at Stardom Championship. So like nothing that's like way over the top, but she had a really good rating because her matches were all really, really good. She's someone who's going on the right pathway. Like if she ends up winning the 5 star, that's a possibility. Like, something can happen. Um, but that's someone who is like really shown out. I think that Mio Momono and Sari having that awesome match as well has kind of set both of them up as like people who someone is like thinking about right now, like, oh man, they had like, a match of the year quality match. Maybe they're people who might be kind of high the next year and so forth. But really what it comes down to is, no matter how good the matches are, like what sort of accomplishments will they get with it to where you can truly like paint the picture. And with Joshi wrestling, a lot of times it's really difficult to figure out, okay, who's the next person who's going to win the title? How long will it take for them to win the title and so forth? Because a lot of times you'll think like, oh, a big show's coming up. This is probably when they're going to make the change. And then they push it 6 more months and then maybe that person doesn't have the title as long, so because of that, they're um, like all their whole catalog of stuff is just isn't quite as good. So it's going to be really tough. But I think that, like I said, because of there being so much talent out there, there's a lot of movement that can happen. With TJPW itself, I do think Yuki Arai will continue to rise, especially if she keeps this championship. But I also think that it's definitely possible that Suzume could move up from 11 even. Like she could possibly get in the top 10 because she's also been doing a lot of what Miu was doing where she can take a wrestler who is not as experienced or someone who is not as viewed as like a main event talent and go in there and have an absolute banger with them and make the matches with them mean something, which is the most important thing. Like that's what truly makes your title reign mean something is making those matches matter to a lot of people. So I think that she could have an awesome year as well, especially if it ends up leading to her winning the Princess of Princess Championship for the first time. That would be really, really cool. So yeah, those would be some people I'd point out for now. But I usually start like putting things together loosely a couple months before the grading period ends. And that's where I start to kind of see like, okay, what has everyone done this year and so forth? Because if I'm not seeing it actively, like I'm not watching every single show or whatnot, it can be sometimes hard to keep up with until you start cage matching your way through. So
Well, we got certainly a long ways to go, like you say, for next year's list, like 10 months, in fact. So there's so much time, so much can happen in 10 months, positives, negatives, and lots to look forward to. But in the meantime, everyone can go ahead and read this year's list over at WrestlerMag.com. All of the top 100 Joshi wrestlers are posted as of the time you are listening to this episode. And I highly encourage everyone to click on over, go give that a read. Share your thoughts with the team. See if there was someone that you really enjoyed that they covered. If you thought someone could be a little bit higher, I'm sure you guys get a lot of interesting messages when it comes to the tier lists. But again, subjective, folks, right? Everybody has their own top 100. But as you've heard here today, Justin and his team put a whole lot of thought and care and more science into it than you might imagine. It is not just here's our 100 favorites. But as we wrap up here, Justin, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic, not just with this top 100 list, but really all of the coverage that you're doing. What's some of the stuff that is upcoming with Resura that people can look forward to in addition to this 100 list? I think you mentioned you might be doing some sort of a video series as well for this, but what can people look forward to and where can people follow yourself and the other staff members of Resura?
so I believe what just went up recently is a Marigold Dreamstar Grand Prix guide that Trent Bredward had put together. We also will be continuing on the wrestler profiles, which is another project that I do so that people can look up these wrestlers, see a couple pictures of them, have some general stats. Like a lot of the stats is drawn from our personal knowledge we've gotten from Joshi City, knowledge we get from Cage Match. Like we try to pull things together as much as we can to give people the information they need. But that's something that's like a slow project just because it's a lot of like transferring data and like formatting certain pages and so forth. So Resura will just continue to do stuff. We're continuing to, put things out there to make people pay attention to Joshi wrestling as much as possible and see a lot of these awesome wrestlers. And if you're trying to get a hold of me on all the socials, I am BioHizzle, which is BioHizzle. I've never decided to change it because that's something that I chose when I was like 12 years old and playing video games. But if you ever have like any questions or anything like that, just feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I don't mind, or Instagram even. If you have constructive criticism, I'm always open to it as well. Like when it comes to these lists or other things as well, because I think people talking about it is a good thing. It shouldn't be people flaming each other for stuff, but it should just be like conversation of like, I think this person should have been a little bit higher. And then I can come back with like, well, here's why they were where they were, but you know what? I could see where they could be 3 spots up as well. Like that kind of stuff is totally fine. And if there's like better ways to put together the list after you've listened to this and have a basic understanding of how it works, you can always feel free to let me know that as well. Cause I'm willing to mess with the formula a bit and try to try to make it as the best it can be because I know that it's not perfect and it never will be. But I'm open to more stuff. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, hit me up.
Well, there you have it, everybody. ResuraMag.com. I'll put the link to that website down in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to your podcast, you can navigate on over. You can read through the top 100 Joshi wrestlers of the past grading period and all the other wonderful stuff that the Resura team is doing. My friend, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a joy. Hopefully you don't get too many people flaming you about why Raku is not number one. That will be me. That will mostly be me in the comments. You'll get a lot of
That's
burner
okay.
account messages from me about Raku. Totally good.
I'll just sleep through it. It's okay. It's okay. I'll sleep through it. It'll be fine.
Thank you again. I appreciate it. And yeah, everybody go ahead, check out restoramag.com. It will be linked in the show notes below. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed that peek behind the curtain of the 2026 Top 100 Joshi Wrestlers list. Again, full rankings are out now over at restoramag.com. Click on over, check out all the hard work that Justin and Ryan and the entire team over there has put together. Beyond the top 100 list, there's all sorts of content, really great reads over there. And the top 100 is always a lot of fun to comb through and see who made the list, who was an honorable mention, and maybe have some discussion about who might make the list in the future. TJPW is full of younger, next-generation talent, some very, very talented women that are sure to make that Joshi Top 100 list in the future. We don't have to wait too long because this weekend, on Saturday, August 29th, the first ever Becoming show will take place, which will feature wrestlers from TJPW who debuted in the year 2023 or after. This will happen at the Tokyo Square in Itabashi. Unfortunately, it won't be live. This will be the first video-on-demand show from TJPW in quite a while, but we won't have to wait too long. It will air on Wrestle Universe on Tuesday, September 1st is when it will get uploaded. We only have 5 matches. Most of them are singles contests, so we will very quickly preview this show. We have a singles match between Chika Nanase and Shion Kanzaki, a first-time meeting between those two. A singles match between Kira Summer and Haru Kazushiro, first time meeting between those two as well. A singles contest between Mifu Ishida and Shino Suzuki, again, another first time singles meeting there. We'll have a singles matchup between Wakana Uehara and Momo Sato. Stop me if you've heard this before, first time singles meeting there as well. And then we will have a tag match just to mix things up a little bit. The team of Himawari and Toga, make a mental note there, they're going to take on Uda Takami and Ren Kanatsu. An interesting show. I imagine it's only going to be about an hour and a half or so, given that there's only 5 matches. Kind of feels like an inspiration show that they just aren't branding as an inspiration show. There's somewhat of a theme to it. It's happening at Tokyo Square, so it almost feels like this would have been an inspiration show if they didn't come up with this idea. I said to put a pin in the Himawari Toga thought because we're now going to see back-to-back shows. We're going to have this truthfully 3 shows in a row because they teamed together at the Korakuen Hall Tokyo Princess Cup Finals, picked up a victory there. They're going to be teaming this weekend at Becoming, and then next weekend on September 5th, they're going to be teaming in the 3-way number 1 contenders match. Now that could mean something, it could mean nothing, but when there's a number 1 contender spot on the line, these are the types of things that you might want to connect the dots on and have a thought. So it wouldn't shock me if Himawari and Toga end up winning that number 1 contenders match. They might be a little bit young, maybe young's not the word, inexperienced, like based on their careers, right? I don't mean that to sound like a negative. Both of them have been tremendous and they've really elevated their game of late, especially in the Tokyo Princess Cup. But when they're in there against a team like Kick Slash or Prism Greed, teams that have competed for those Princess Tag titles before, an individual in Yamashita who has held those Princess Tag titles before, all I'm saying is they have a bit of a longer road than those other teams. But we'll have to see. We got 2 weeks before we get there. In the meantime, they will have this tune-up match here on Saturday, August 29th, Becoming. Like I mentioned in the intro, I'm really excited to see what this show looks like, if this becomes an annual show for TJPW. Maybe it becomes more than that. Maybe they do this show every few months like they do Inspiration, and it gives a chance for some of the newer wrestlers to get more reps under their belt, have a show all to themselves. It's almost like a new blood show in a way. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this more and more. We'll shift from some of the next-gen talent all the way to some of the graduated talent and some of the alumni. Only one again to talk about this week. That is, yet again, Unagi Sayaka. Surprise, surprise, Unagi Sayaka has championship belts. On Tuesday, well, I guess technically after this update, she doesn't. On Tuesday, August 25th, Unagi Sayaka lost the Seedling Beyond the Sea tag titles that she held. Her partner was Honori Hana. They lost these titles to Ka Kadita and La Pedita. That's fun to say. Say that a couple times fast. Those two are actually Kakeru Sakaguchi and Kaho Kobayashi. So I think last week Unagi won a title. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. This week she loses a title. So Unagi, this belt collector storyline that she has, maybe it's not quite as intense as Mercedes Moné, but she definitely has been collecting belts from all sorts of promotions. She is truly living her best life in her freelancer era. This is a huge weekend for Excursions as well. Real quickly, I'll note that I am still waiting for 2 of those Kira Summer Australia matches to get posted to YouTube. The one she had with Peak Pro Wrestling, and then the one she had with Riot City Wrestling. So keeping a pin in those. But this weekend, truly an incredible weekend that we're going to see here. On Friday, so the day that this show releases, the 28th of August, Eve X The World 2 is happening. Miyu Yamashita defending her Eve International title against Kaylee Ray. I am beyond looking forward to that. I believe friend of the show Matt Turner is going to be there with Rob Goodwin as well. We'll have to see if we can get like a man on the ground report from them, but really, really excited about that. The very next day on Saturday, August 29th, Setup Thailand is holding a show under the same moon where Matcha will defend her Setup All Asia title against Shoko Nakajima. And then, of course, we've mentioned it for a few weeks, but on Sunday the 30th, Kitsune presents Kamiyu Goes Hollywood. I will be at this show. I'm really excited about this. Yuki Kamifuku and Alexis Lee are teaming together to take on the team of Zara Zacher and Dark Sheik. Viva Van was announced for this show. Just this past week, Mei Saruga was announced for this show. Those two are going to meet in a singles contest. And there's a bunch of other wrestlers that are going to be a part of this. I think this show is going to be terrific as well. Of course, I will be the man on the ground. Next week, we'll talk about Kitsune. Hopefully, I'll have some fun stories to share from Yuki Kamifuku, from friend of the show, Alexis. Maybe Alexis will stop by, and maybe Mei Saruga as well. There's one new excursion that we can keep our eyes on Monday, September 7th, Labor Day, here in the United States. There will be an event called Takayamania Empire 5. This is an annual benefit show for former wrestler Yoshihiro Takayama, who has unfortunately been paralyzed from the neck down since 2017. So there's a benefit show held in his honor every single year. This year, we have TJPW representation in the form of Miyu Yamashita. Now get a load of this. Miyu Yamashita is going to team up with Hiroyo Matsumoto, who she just faced at Korakuen Hall not long ago. They're going to take on the completely overpowered team out of Sendai Girls, Chihiro Hashimoto and Ryo Mizunami. That's one that I am very much circling. I have to do a little bit of research to see how you watch these benefit shows, and of course, how you can donate to this unfortunate cause, but this wonderful cause for Yoshihiro Takayama, who has been paralyzed. But heck of a match to put on your benefit show. So really looking forward to that as well. And then, of course, later on in September on the 18th, Mizuki is going to be wrestling in Singapore for Singapore Pro Wrestling's Overdrive. That will bring us to the end of this week's episode. A big, big show this week. I think I'll give the cold spray and the ice packs to Justin Stein, putting together that terrific Joshi Top 100 list. So fascinating to understand what goes into that. Again, WrestlerMag.com if you want to check that out. But Justin, my friend, you get the cold spray and the ice packs today. On next week's episode, we'll review the Becoming show, and we'll preview the first fall tour show of 2026 in Yokohama, which has that three-way tag title #1 contenders match, and the first Princess of Princess preview match for Wrestle Princess 7. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future episodes. You can follow us at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. If you want to email the show, TokyoJoshiPod@gmail.com. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning Stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next week on the Tokyo Joshi Pod.